Hello everyone, my name is Omar. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine. In today's video, we are going to talk about static routing in Juniper routers. So we have some VMX router setup. We are going to talk about preference values and qualified next hop as well. So what do we see over here is going to be a small video. We are going to implement some static routing. So I'll tell you what has been set already. So I have implemented all the routings for all these networks. So this network is done, this network is done. All these networks routing has been implemented. So we are going to talk about this network and we are going to talk about this network. So we have some Cisco routers over here, which will be acting as our host routers. Now, if you look at this router, this particular VMX router, the 32769 router, so here this router has one path available via 32770 and one path available via 32774. Similarly, in 32771, if you see, you have one path available via 32770. This path is for this particular network 10.1.1.0/24. And over here we have another path which is via 32775 for the same network. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, I don't want it to load balance. So I will make this as my primary path and this as my secondary path. Now to do that, what we do is we will set up some preference values and some qualified next hop values. Now by default, static routing in Juniper has a preference value of 5. Now when I talk about preference values is equivalent to an ED value in Cisco. So by default, the preference value is 5. So I'll say this is equivalent to AD in Cisco. Okay, there are some differences, but you won't really get into that. Well, so preference value of static routing in Juniper is 5, and what you will do is you will keep that default. And for the secondary path is nothing but a qualified next hop, and we will set the prefix or the preference value over here to let's say 10. Okay, now this is something which is recommended, so I will set up one static route and I'll give it a next hop of 192.168.1, and this is .2 over here, and I'll give a qualified next hop with a higher preference values. So if this primary path fails, the secondary path will be taken into consideration. But over here, now the question is, what if I set up the preference value of the qualified next hop less than the default preference value? So qualified next hop will be having a preference, okay, which I'll just write it, preference, excuse me for that, preference will be less than the default preference, that is 5. So let's say I give it a number 3 over here. So in that case, what happens is Juniper will consider the lowest preference value. The first match is obviously the longest match, but we are not talking about longest match. We are going to advertise the same subnet. Then Juniper will talk about the preference value and then it will choose the best path. So if I give the qualified next hop a preference value of 3, which is less than 5, and 5 is the default preference for static, right? So Juniper will go and choose the qualified next hop as the primary path. So this is, let's say, qualified next hop, and this is just the next hop. So next hop will be having a preference of 5 and qualified next hop a preference of 3. We will see that Juniper will prefer a lower preference value. Okay, so that is how static routing is done in Juniper. So if I give a qualified next hop, recommended thing is to give a qualified next hop with a higher preference value, because that's what the qualified next hop is going to do. It is like, it is the next hop which is qualified to take over if the primary path fails. But if I give a preference value lower than the default preference value of static route, the qualified next hop will become the primary path and this will become the secondary path. So at the end of my setting, I will be seeing that if this router wants to go and reach the other router, it will be taking this path, it will be going over here, and while coming back, it will go to this router. The return traffic will go over this path. Why? Because obviously for this particular VMX, the 32769, this is the primary path to reach 10.1.2.0/24, but for VMX 32771, the primary path will be via 32775 and the traffic will be returned via this other path. So that is what is all about preference values and qualified next hop for static routing. Now let's go ahead and implement this in the routers. Right, so I think I should clear the screen. No, let it be that way. I have all my routers over here. So this is R3. So this is R3 is my 32771. That's the router, and R1 is my VMX, which is labeled as 32769. Right, so we are in the global configuration mode of Juniper VMX. Right, so let us implement some static routing. So set routing options static route to 10.1.2.0/24 with a next hop address of, I suppose, 192.168.1.2, and I'll give it a qualified next hop of 192.168.4.2, which will be having a preference value of 10. So see, I have given a next hop and I have given a qualified next hop as well. Let me commit the configuration and show you how the output looks like. So run show configuration display set, and here I see that I have established a static route towards 10.1.2.0/24 with a next hop of 192.168.1.2, and the qualified next hop is 192.168.4.2 having a preference value of 10. If I check the routing table, so run show route, so it shows me that 10.1.2.0/24 is reachable via static with a preference value of 5 via 192.168.1.2, and a static route again, but with a preference value of 10 via 192.168.4.2, and this is the preferred route over here. Okay, so here this is the setting which we have done. Now we will go on 32771 and we will implement the static route where the qualified next hop will be having a lower preference value than the default static route preference in Juniper. So again, set routing options, that's the syntax, static route okay, 10.1.1.0. Before I do that, I will just have a quick check about the IP addresses. So run show interface source. So I have a 2.1 over here. So I have a 2.2 as a next hop, and this is 6.2. So my next hop would be 6.1. Okay. Set routing options. Routing options, static route to the network 10.1.1.0/24, having a next hop IP address of 192.168.2.2 and a qualified next hop of 192.168.6.1 because we are .2, so the neighboring router is .1, and let's give it a preference value of 3 and commit the configuration. Okay, now this we have set. Let's check it in the running configuration. So run show configuration, display the values which we have set. Right, so we have a route which is set up 192.168.2.2 as a next hop for 10.1.1.0/24 and a qualified next hop of 192.168.6.1 with a preference value of 3. And let's check the routing table. So run show route. I see, where is 10.1.1.0? Yeah, that's it. You see, the qualified next hop is preferred over the static route which we have given. Qualified next hop is preferred over the next hop because of the lower preference values. And just to further verify this, let's do a trace on both the routers. So this is 3725 Yeah, this is host 2 and I suppose this is host 1. That's it. So I mean I should keep it this way so that you guys can see the output over here. So here what I will do is I'll initiate a trace route on both the routers and we will see what path it is taking. Okay, so well, host 1, let's initiate a ping from there. Enable show IP interface brief just to check the IP address. Let's do the same over here. Show IP interface brief. So this is 10.1.2.100. So I will do a trace route to 10.1.2.200. That's it. And over here, I will trace a path to 10.1.1.100. And let's check the results. So I explained that what path it is going to take. So we'll see how this host 2 is trying to reach host 1 and how host 1 is trying to reach host 2. So let's give it a moment. In the meantime, you already know what is going to happen, but let's wait for the exact results to show up. Trace will take some time. So let's wait. So well, the trace results are here. So we see if the host 1, that is this router over here, which is 10.1.1.100, if it has to reach 10.1.2.200, it takes the path which is on top, 192.168.1.2, then 2.1, and then it reaches the host. So this is the path which is taking, like the top path which I have already explained. So this is the path that we already highlighted in the red line. This is the primary path it is going to take. And when this particular host tries to reach 10.1.1.100, so it will always take this path because this is the primary path for that other router to go. Right, so well, this was a short video about how do we use reference values and qualified next hops for static routing in Juniper. I hope this has been informative. Please comment your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. Till then, take care. Bye bye.